Hi there, my name is Settlix, and in this video, I will be taking you on a quick and dirty adventure into the lands of TwitchLib. But first, let's cover what you can expect me to share with you. If you don't care for disclaimers, you can skip straight to this point in the video right here on the screen to get started. So what should you not expect from this video? Well, for one, fundamentals of C#. If you do not know what a class, method, property, variable, etc. are, if you don't know what those things are, then look them up before getting started with me here. Otherwise, the terminology I use, you sometimes might get confused by. I also will not be covering the inner workings of TwitchLib. If you're curious about that, you can check out their GitHub, which you can find in a link in the description. What can you expect to learn today? I'll be guiding you through the process of installing a Nuget package for TwitchLib, creating your first application in the Twitch Dev dashboard, how to install the Twitch CLI and acquire an access token, creating your first Twitch client instance, connecting it to chat using your access token, how to receive your first message through the bot, and finally, how to send your first message through your bot. Alongside that, I will also be introducing you to the concept of Twitch commands, and how to use the API to refresh your token, though I will not be covering these things fully as they're complicated and are deserving of their own video. For each of these steps, you will find a timestamp in the description and a section in the video, so feel free to skip around to the parts you need. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to do is create a new project in the case that you haven't already done so. We can do this by going to File, New, and Project. That will open up our project creation menu where we can then specify that we want to create a console app. If you do not see console app, all you should have to do is search for console app and then it should come up. Go ahead and double click that or hit next and we can then name our project. I'm going to name my project Twitch Chatbot because I'm creating a Twitch chatbot. We're going to go ahead and leave everything else default. You can change locations or whatever you may like to do, but for my purposes, I'm going to leave it exactly as it is. We're going to go ahead and hit next. We can see that we're using .NET 8. You can use other versions of .NET. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. As long as it's compatible with TwitchLib, you will be completely fine using it. I'm going to go ahead and use .NET 8 because I like the newest stuff. We're also going to make sure that we're not using AOT publish, and it's up to you whether or not you want to use top level statements. I personally am not going to use them because that's what I'm used to seeing, so I'm going to go ahead and leave that checked. We're going to go ahead and hit create, which will then create our project. Now we'll go ahead and install the TwitchLib package. We can do this by going up to Tools, Nuget Package Manager, Manage Nuget Packages for Solution. This will open up the Nuget Package Manager, and we'll make sure that we switch to the Browse tab so we can look things up. We'll then type in TwitchLib into the search box, and we'll grab the first one here. You can use these other libraries if you like. You can piecemeal what you would like to piecemeal together, but for our purposes, we're just going to go ahead and grab TwitchLib. So we'll check this box here to target our Twitch chatbot project, and we'll go ahead and hit install. After a moment, a pop-up will arrive notifying us that we have licenses to accept. I highly encourage you to review licenses if you are in a commercial context because you do not want to be using commercially things that you are not licensed to use commercially. Make sure to review this kind of thing, especially if you're working on a commercial project. And for our purposes, we'll just go ahead and hit I accept. After that's installed, we can close the Nuget Package Manager. At this point, we can go ahead and continue, but I wanted to cover something else first. If we look at our Solution Explorer, we'll see that within our Twitch chatbot, if we double click on our project, we can actually open up the solution file for it. And we can see right here that the package manager has gone and added a package reference, including TwitchLib at version 3.5.3. This is an alternative method to adding packages to your solution. You do not have to use the packet manager. If you know exactly which package you wish to add, you can always just add a reference to it this way. And this is a very common workflow for people who prefer this, but it is not necessary and you can do it whichever way suits you. Now that we've created our project and added the TwitchLib package, we're going to go ahead and create our first class. We can do this by opening the Solution Explorer. If it's not open, just click View at the top and select Solution Explorer. That will open it up for you. Then we'll go ahead and right click on our project. You can see here that we have our solution and our project. We want to right click our project and then we want to go to Add and New Item. As you can see here, we can also hit Control-Shift-A if you're on Windows to open that up. I will then call this Twitch Client Container, and I will hit Add. That will create our new class file, and we can then get started with it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go up to our usings. I'm going to uncollapse them. And I'm going to add a new using TwitchLib.client, because we want to use the client namespace. I'll then go down into our Twitch client container, and I will add a new field, public Twitch client. This will make sure that we actually have access to a client that we can use in our application. Now that we have our client instantiated or created, we need to actually give it some information and initialize it. So far, all we've done is construct it. So we need to go to the next steps and make sure that we can actually make use of this client. So one of the first things that we're going to do is we're going to need to initialize it. If we go ahead and call client.initialize, you can see inside of the hinting that we have multiple fields that are already set that we do not need to worry about, but there's one that isn't, and that is our connection credentials. TwitchLib requires that we have connection credentials composed to pass into our client so that it can connect to a channel and perform functions. So to do this, we're going to go ahead and go up here. We're going to type public connection credentials. We should see hinting. And in the case that we don't, all you need to do is add the TwitchLib client models using to the top of your class file. And then we'll go ahead and call this credentials. Then in our initialize, we'll go ahead and pass credentials to it. And now our client will initialize based off our connection credentials. To make sure that we actually have information in these credentials, though, is the important part. So we will go ahead and say credentials equals new connection credentials. And this is where things get interesting for us. So we can see that we require a Twitch username and a Twitch OAuth token. We haven't covered how to get the token yet, but we're going to go over that in just a moment. For now, we're going to fill out this information with something placeholder, and then we'll populate it. So we're going to go up to the top here. We're going to add two new fields, public string bot username and bot OAuth. Now, we'll pass these into our connection credentials as bot username and bot OAuth. And that will give the information that's required for the credentials to exist. And then when we pass it over to our client, it will be able to successfully initialize. So now we'll go ahead and cover what exactly this does. So the bot username in client credentials is telling this system that the OAuth token will be associated with this bot's username. So in the case of my example here, I'm going to be using a bot called SettleXBot. So that's what I'll call it. And the OAuth token will have to retrieve using the Twitch command line interface. There are other ways to do this, but the way that I'm going to show you will be through the command line interface. So now we have our bot username assigned to SettleXBot, and all we have to do is get our authentication token. And then when we initialize our client, it will be able to actually connect and use our bot's information. It will essentially act as this account name using this auth token. So let's go ahead and cover that a little bit. For the purposes of this tutorial, I will not be covering the installation of the Twitch command line interface. If you do need to find resources about it, you can go to dev.twitch.tv/docs/CLI, and you can find information for that there. If you need a link, it will be in the description. All you have to do is follow the instructions here. If you're on Mac, follow the Mac instructions. If you're on Windows, follow the Windows instructions. And once you're done, I'll meet you on the other side of that. So congratulations, you've now gotten the Twitch command line interface installed, and hopefully we're now prepared to move on to the next step where we actually go ahead and configure our Twitch connection and pull a token from it. So what we're going to do is we're going to, as the instructions show on the command line interface, which by the way, you can use these instructions and jump straight ahead of me, we're going to type in Twitch configure. This is going to open up an option for us to give a client ID. Now, we haven't covered this, so we're going to go ahead and jump into a very important step, and that is the creation of a Twitch application on the dev dashboard. We're going to go ahead and go over to dev.twitch.tv to accomplish this, and I'm going to hop over there and rejoin you in just a second. Once you've gotten yourself over to dev.twitch.tv and you've signed in and authenticated, all you have to do is go up to your console at the top right. When you click that, you'll find yourself on the console dashboard, and you will see sections for extensions, stuff for game developers, and applications. In our case, we are going to be registering a new application, and you can see that I have multiple. It is not difficult to do, and you will find in some cases you do want to have multiple applications. In my case, I have an application for myself on Twitch so that I can run certain operations directly through my own user account, and also I have one for SettleXBot so that I can run operations through him. In this case, we're going to go ahead and click on register your application. Now, as you could probably imagine, we're going to go ahead and fill out information regarding our application. We're going to name it. In this case, I'm going to call mine test bot application. We're going to fill in an OAuth redirect URL. In this case, as you can see here, when testing locally, you can set this to http://localhost. That is what we're going to do because we're running this bot locally. If you need instructions for cloud hosting, you've come to the wrong guy. I'm not going to be covering that today. We're just going to be covering running this locally so we can get it started. Then you're going to go ahead and select a category. For this purpose, we're going to call it a chatbot because it is a chatbot, and we do not have to worry about selecting a client type. If you need more information about this, you can click the little icon here, and we can learn all about the difference between client types, but for the purposes of this demonstration, we don't need to worry about this, and we can stick to calling it confidential. Then we're going to go ahead and fill out our CAPTCHA, make sure that they know we're not a robot, and then we can click Create. After clicking Create Application, you should now find yourself on the Developer Applications console, in which case we're just going to go over to Manage, and we're going to click Manage on our testbot application or whatever you've happened to name your application. Then we're going to go ahead and scroll down to the bottom. You will see that we now have new information available to us, a client ID and a client secret. We're going to go ahead and select the client ID, copy it. We're going to go back to our terminal. Hopefully you still have this open. If you do not, you need to reopen your terminal, type in Twitch configure, and you will find yourself at a field that is awaiting a client ID. We're going to go ahead and paste our client ID into the console and hit enter. Now it's asking for our secret, and this is where things get really scary. If you are a streamer, if you are working on this kind of thing on your stream, you must make sure that you do not reveal your client secret to anyone. This is used, as you can see here, it is passed to the token exchange endpoints to obtain a token. You must keep this confidential. Do not let people have this. And in any situation where your client secret leaks, be it during a test, or if you find that your bot is suddenly being used in someone else's channel without your consent, you need to generate a new secret immediately. This secret is the core key to permissions for your application. So make absolutely sure that no one gets access to your secret. We're going to go ahead and click New Secret. We're going to click OK to generate a new secret. And this is the only time this secret will be shown. So if you are going to need to store this anywhere, now would be the time to copy it out and paste it into a text document somewhere outside of your code base so that if you do share it in a repo or if you do show it on stream, people will not be able to see this information. We'll then go back to our terminal again and we will paste in our client secret. In the odd case that either the client ID or the secret show you a red X here and do not allow them to submit, simply copy the information into a text document, copy it from that text document, and then paste it into the field, and it should work. In the case that it doesn't, it's just Twitch CLI being tricky. Just keep trying and you will get it to work. We'll then go ahead and hit enter. Now we have successfully configured our Twitch CLI instance, and we will be able to generate a token with it. For just a very brief synopsis on this topic, Twitch requires that you use scopes to declare what your access token will give you permission to use. In the case of this demonstration, we actually don't need any of these scopes, but it's important to note that if you ever need to do things on Twitch's API, you will require an access token to do that. It's not a completely open API. Things need to be traced back to users, and things need to be asked for permission to do. So this is how we use Twitch's API to ask for permission to do something, basically. So something as simple as reading subscriptions to a channel or moderating channels, deleting messages, reading messages, all of these things are permissions given by Twitch's API. And we can see right down here, there is one very important thing that we're going to need for our demonstration today, and that is chat read. This will enable our bot to read messages from chat as they are sent. You'll see that it says view live stream chat messages using an IRC connection, and that is because Twitch uses IRC as the backend for its chat service, and our client itself over in TwitchLib actually uses IRC to connect to Twitch. So that permission will be absolutely essential for us to read chat. So now, hopefully, you have kept your console open. In the case that you didn't, you'll need to reopen it really quickly, and we can just go ahead and get that up here. We're going to type in Twitch token -h. And that will give us a list of commands that are relevant to the tokens. So what we can see here is there is a -u or --user token, which allows us to log in as a user to get an app or access token, and a scope string, which will enable us to declare to Twitch which permissions we would like to have for the token that we are generating. If you are using an account that is different than your main account on Twitch, you will need to sign into that account now to make sure that you actually create a token for that account. This system will use whatever account is currently logged into Twitch as the target user. So you want to make sure that you are logged into your bot's account before you proceed with this step. Assuming that you are now logged into your bot, we can proceed to create our first token on Twitch. So what we are going to do is we are going to type Twitch token -u, designating that it is a user token, -s, designating that we want to give it our own scope string, and we're going to then type quotation mark, chat, :read, end quotation mark, and we'll then hit enter. That will then open up your browser. You will then be requested to give permissions. So the way that this will work is whatever token you want to generate, whatever scopes you want to generate, you will be requested to your currently logged in account to verify that these are the scopes that you want to give. In this case, I'm requesting to view live stream chat and rooms messages. This will enable my bot to see messages that are sent in chat. We'll go ahead and hit authorize. And after that point, we can close this section of the browser. And if we go back to our console, you will see that we have generated a refresh token and a user access token. Again, these are critically important to not show on stream. I will be making sure that I delete this entire application after this tutorial is done, because the power that is given for something like this is quite vast. So depending on what scopes you have, especially, it can be quite dangerous. And you can see here that we have a scopes list of chat read, and we are also given an expiration time. It's important to take note of this expiration time, because once the access token expires, you will have to use your refresh token to gain a new access token. And you can do that through the API. We won't be covering that today. So for the purposes of this application, we're just going to need our access token. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab our access token, we're going to copy that, and then we're going to go back over to our bot application. At this point, we're going to hit equals, quotation mark, and we're going to slap that access token into here. Now we have our bot username and we have the OAuth token. However, I am actually using my main account, so I need to change this to just be Settlix, because otherwise the information will not match and we will have issues. At this point, we've now gone and created a Twitch client. We have acquired our authentication information from the Twitch CLI, as you can see over here, and we are ready to initialize our client. What we're going to do is we're going to create a field for our Twitch client container. So we are going to say public Twitch client container, and we are actually going to declare it as new. And the reason for this is just laziness, just sheer laziness. You don't have to do it this way. This is just so we can get to this sooner. We're then going to remove this console write line. We are going to add a console.read line so that it does not close out the application immediately. And then we are going to type in client container initialize. And what we'll need to do is actually make sure that we can access this, so that this static method will not enable us to access this. Again, this is a coding fundamental, so if you're unfamiliar with this concept, it's fine, but you should learn it. And we're going to make this a static public field so that we can access it from this static method. And then we're going to go ahead and hit save, and we're going to go ahead and run. And when we run this application, we'll open up a console. And you should quickly see I have connected. If you see I have connected, that means you've done this 100% correctly. You can pat yourself on the back. You have just successfully created a Twitch client, given it authentication information, and allowed it to connect for the first time. So huge congratulations to you if you've made it this far. If you do not see I have connected, you need to review the previous steps and make sure that you've followed everything to a T. This should work for you. And if it doesn't, it is not your fault. Just try it again. You will get there. Have patience. It's all about patience and determination. That's how we get through all these problems. So with that, we can now move on to the next step, which is going to be a little bit more fun. We're going to enable ourselves to actually see a message in chat. So now that we've made sure that we can connect our client to Twitch, our next step is to actually make sure that we connect to a channel. We can go back over to our Twitch client container, and one thing that we will notice is so far we have not designated in any way which channel to connect to. I have declared all the necessary information to connect, but we haven't actually connected to a channel yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to modify this a little bit, and we are going to say on connection, we want to connect to a channel. So the way that we're going to do this, now granted, you can also do this through the configuration of the bot. So you can initialize it and tell it to connect directly to a channel. But for the purposes of this demonstration, I want to show you this in separate steps. I want to get you used to handling an event, and this is an easy way to do that. So what we're going to do is inside of our onConnected event, we're going to say client join channel, and then we are going to put in the name of the channel. In this case, we're going to connect it to my channel, which is Settlix. And that will make sure that we can actually join a channel. But how do we know if we've joined a channel? Well, we can use an event to detect that. So we can do client.onJoinedChannel, and we can add an event to that. So we're going to do joined channel. And we are then going to follow the same exact step that we did before, where we're going to create a console log. So we're going to say console write line, I have connected to the channel named, and then we are going to interpolate our string, and we're going to pass in information that we get from this onJoined channel argument. So TwitchLib does this wonderful thing for us where it has a bunch of models or classes that contain the data that was passed to us from Twitch's API. And it makes it a lot easier to handle things like this, because otherwise you'd have to go and create your own data classes and create your own JSON deserialization processes. TwitchLib does all of that stuff for us. And if those sound like magic words to you, they did for me at first as well. So either way, what we're going to do is we're going to need the channel information there. So we're going to pull that. So what we're going to do is we're going to type in e.channel, and that will tell us which channel our bot has connected to. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to go back to our program. We don't technically need to be over here, but might as well. And we're going to go ahead and click on the play button. That's going to open up our console again, and we should be able to see a successful connection to our channel. So first we'll see I have connected, and then we see I have connected to the channel named Settlix. This is excellent. Again, if you do not see I have connected to the channel named Settlix, you've done something wrong. It's completely fine. It happens. Just review the information that I've given you and you will get this. So now that we've connected to the channel and we've verified that that's all working, we can proceed to actually try and read our first message from the channel. So we'll go ahead and click stop. We'll go back over to our Twitch client container if you did move back away from that, and we will go ahead and add another event listener. So far, we have listened to connecting to Twitch and joining a channel. Now what we're going to do is listen to a message being received. So we are going to put client on message, on message received, and we're going to let it auto-generate that method again. If it doesn't auto-generate, again, you can just review what my code looks like and make sure that you are passing in the same objects that are required. So then we'll go ahead and call this message received. And we will go ahead and add another console write line. So we will do console write line. I have received a message. And in this case, we'll do something even simpler. We'll just say message from with a colon after and their message. So what we will do is we will look at the message received arguments. Message received arguments contains a chat message. The chat message object contains a ton of information. Things like whether or not it was a cheer. Did they send bits and stuff like that? You can get that information from here. Was it sent by a broadcaster? Is the message highlighted? Is it a moderator that sent the message? There's a lot of information that you can get just from the message information. And you can thank Twitch for sending this, and you can thank TwitchLib for creating this lovely model so that you don't have to do it yourself. In this case, all that we require is the message and the username. And I believe username is in here somewhere. I believe it is in here somewhere. This is a tremendous class. There's a lot of information attached to it. So we'll just go back to the client container for now, and we'll fill this stuff in. So we will do e.chat message.username. And you can see right there, username is an option. And then we will also do e.chat message.message. And that will pull the relevant fields from this object. Again, if this stuff seems like witchcraft to you, it's time for you to review some C# fundamentals, but you'll be okay. You'll understand this stuff. And if you would prefer to just go at it this way, I will not discourage you from doing so. So now we are listening for when we first connect to Twitch. We then join my channel. We then listen for that event and declare that we have joined the channel. And then we continue to wait to see if we receive any messages. So what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and hit save. We'll go ahead and hit play. And if I've done my homework correctly, we should be able to see a message in my channel. So what we'll do is we'll get the console up when it does appear. Whenever it does, wherever it does, however it does, there we go. We've got the client, or we've got our little console here. And we can see that we've connected to my channel. And if I go to my chat, we can then fire off a test. So if I fire off test, we can see right there, message from Settlix test. So just like that, you've just gone from having no experience with any of this stuff to creating your first application on Twitch, getting your first token, connecting your client to the chat, and receiving a message. We have one step left, but I really want you to take a moment and absorb just how much possibility there is within this space. Just with simple functionalities like this, you can already do a whole lot. This is the bare minimum that you would need to potentially do all sorts of things, like responding to messages. And there's just a plethora of things that you can do with just the simple response to a message functionality. So with that, we'll proceed to the final step. So now that we've successfully connected to our channel and received our first message, we want to try and send a message. So the way that we're going to accomplish this is essentially the same. We're going to detect an event and we're going to try and send a message through it. But the first thing that I want to cover is something very important and something very helpful within the client, and that is that we can listen to logging events from the client as well. So if we type in client.onLog, we can actually listen to logging events from our client, which is extremely useful when you're in debug. So we're going to go ahead and type onLog here after generating that method, and we are just going to do a console write line log and our message. So if we interpolate this string and we type in it should just be like e.message or e.data. It looks like in this case it is e.data, and we'll just pass that through. We'll slap a semicolon on that. We'll save it, and we will reboot our application. So we'll go ahead and reboot that now. And when it opens back up, We'll see connecting. We'll see a bunch of other information as well. We see a ton of other information. It's all very useful as well. This is very nice to have when you are trying to test things. So this is an important step. So now for this final step, we are going to send a message in the channel. So now that we have set it up so that we can join a channel and receive messages, we want to actually be able to send messages too and test that that works. So the way that we're going to do this is with our joined channel event. So we're going to go ahead and inside of joined channel, we want to declare, say we want to declare that our bot has successfully connected to the channel. Well, how do we do that? It's very simple. We type in client dot send message, and you can see that send message has two different implementations. One that just takes in the string that is the name of the channel and a message, and another that takes in joined channel objects and a message. We are going to use joined channel. Of course, if you would prefer to, feel free to just use your username of the channel that you've joined, but I like to use a verification system of the client's joined channels. So if we type in client.joined channels 0, we will be able to get the 0th entry in the array of joined channels, which in this case would be Settlix, because that's the channel that I've had my client join. We are then going to add a comma in there, and we're going to type in, this is a test message, I have connected, or whatever you would like your bot to say. Maybe you want your bot to say, beware humans, I'm here to destroy you. Whatever you would like your bot to say, go ahead and slap something in there, and then we can proceed to testing it. All right, so it's time to test. All we've got to do is go back up to the top, click that play button, launch our bot application, and we should be able to see, oh, wait, what's that? We don't have permission to perform that action. You'd be surprised to know that even if you can read messages on Twitch, that does not mean you can write them. So we're going to have to revisit creating another token because we do not have the scope to send messages within my channel. So we're going to have to go and pick that up. All right, so then we're going to want to head back over to the Access Scopes page that Twitch provides for us for reference. We're going to want to pull our terminal back up, and we're going to want to generate another token. So what we're going to do is we need to use the chat read scope, which we're already using to read chat messages and view them from the IRC connection, and we also need to use the chat edit scope. It's unintuitively named, but it does allow us to send messages through the IRC connection, and we definitely need to do that, so we want to include that scope. So we're going to go over to our terminal again. We're going to type Twitch token -u to designate that it is a user token, -s to designate that we want to add additional scopes. We are going to type chat :read because we want to continue to be able to read chat, a space in between because it is a space separated list, and then we are going to type chat :edit. Now, my computer messed up on me a little bit and did not save this section the last time I recorded it. So when I hit enter here, we are not going to see the typical approval screen. You will see an approval screen, just like the first one that we saw earlier in this tutorial, and all you'll have to do is click accept, and it will let you know that you're now accepting the new scope of sending and receiving messages. So you'll see a sending messages section will be highlighted in that scopes list, and beyond that it's exactly the same. So we'll go ahead and close this. We'll go back to our terminal and we'll grab our new access token and we will pass that through. And if you see any inconsistencies in my code, it's just because I messed up and had to re-record this section, but everything else will be the same moving forward. It'll just be, you'll see a different auth token here, but this will enable you to be able to send messages. And as we can see in our scopes list, we now have chat edit and chat read. So we'll be able to both send messages and receive them through the API. So that's fantastic. And we can run one more test to verify that this worked. So then one more time, we'll go ahead and hit the play button. Our bot will launch up. We should be able to see that it is launching up in just a second here. There we go. It took its sweet time, but there we go. We connect to chat, should be connected. And then we'll go ahead and check in my chat, and we can see right here, this is a test message, I have connected. So now we have successfully gone and made a new token and successfully sent a message in chat. So you can pat yourself on the back, you did it. you've won. You've done it. You've defeated TwitchLib. So I'd just like to say congratulations. You've now gone from a position where maybe you weren't even sure how to get started with TwitchLib, all the way to creating your first client that can now send and receive messages in any channel. And you can send it to any channel, but I would encourage you not to. The Twitch Developer Agreement has very strict terms about where you send your bot. And if you gather information with that bot, especially, you want to be very, very, very careful to abide by the developer agreement. So I encourage you, if you did not review it, take some time and review the developer agreement. You want to be sure that you are not violating any rules in that regard. With all of that said, you're now in a position to start your journey in creating a Twitch chatbot. I hope you found this useful. I hope it brings you a couple steps closer to your goals, whatever they may be. You're certainly more equipped than you were before, and hopefully you found this video informative. And finally, there are two more concepts that I want to cover with you. One is a chat command. So you may think to yourself, as I once did, that since you have a message received, that's all you need, and you can just create your own command system around that. But in fact, that is unnecessary. You do not need to reinvent this wheel. They've already done it for you. This wheel has already been invented, and there's no need to do it yourself. We can use client.onChat command received, and we can process a chat command this way. So if we look at on command received arguments and we go to the chat command itself, we can see that it takes in arguments as list, arguments as string, the original chat message, the command identifier, which in this case would be an exclamation point by default, and the command text, which would be the name of the command. So say we wanted to create a command called beep. Let's imagine for a moment that we're going to create our first command. Well, we are going to create our first command. We're not even imagining it. This is happening for real. Do whatever you would like. Follow along if you would like. Create your own command. And for this case, we will say if e.command text, this being the name of the command, equals beep. And then we will say ordinal ignore, because we want to make sure that regardless whether or not someone maybe puts it in all caps, or if they put it in lowercase, or if they put it in some weird mixture, that no matter what, it gets boiled down to the same command. And then we will say client.send message, client joined channels 0, boop, and we'll just say boop back. Now, this is also getting a little bit cumbersome. 2 times now, we've had to do a client send message call. Now, this gets cumbersome, and there's no need to do this if you are only working on one channel. You can theoretically just build your own method. Now, most of you, you're probably experienced with code. You don't need to be told this, but for those of you who are newer, if you're ever catching yourself repeating code, if you are repeating code over and over, there is a way that you should optimize this. You should make it into what is called a method. We've been making methods this whole time, and we're going to write another one for sending messages to the same channel every single time. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a public void send message that takes in a string with our message, and we're going to take this code here. We're going to cut it. We're going to move it up here. And then we're going to replace boop over here with our message parameter. And now we have a nice clean way to always send a message to our main channel without having to go in and say, hey, use join channel 0. Now, granted, if you are trying to send to specific channels, you will still want to use client send message and designate which channel. If your bot is connected to several channels, you will in fact need to do this. But if you are like me and you are just developing a bot for yourself, you do not have to worry about all that. You can just build yourself a wrapper method for it. And then we can say send message boop. And we can do the same down here. And instead of saying send message, this is a test message, we can get rid of the client joined, and we can get rid of client dot, and then we can just send message. And if we save that, and we hit play, and we take a look at chat again, and you'll see that my bot at one point fired off as I was doing some testing here. My actual bot fired off, and we will see this is a test message I have connected. And if I bring back over the console, you can see that we've successfully joined the channel. And now I will go ahead and type in exclamation point beep, and we get a boop back. and we can do exclamation point beep in all caps, and we still get a boot back. No matter what, we'll get that command back because it's recognizing it. So what's really cool about this is that you can build commands super fast. I'm sure you can already imagine, if you're a creative person, you can already imagine all the things you could do by recognizing a chat command and firing off messages with it. So that alone is a tremendously helpful thing. And I just wanted to cover that with you because I don't want you wandering off into the realms of trying to parse your messages from chat messages received into commands when there's already a system for that. I don't want to sway you into a bad course. So definitely use on command received. It will help you a lot, and I highly advise using that instead of writing your own command parsing system. And finally, the last topic I wanted to cover with you really quickly is API access. So currently we have an auth token, but our auth token is going to expire. If we look at our console here, we can see that this will expire at 5:54 and 34 seconds in UTC. So we only have so long to use this token before it expires. And this is a safety measure to make sure that access is not given forever. So if someone were to get access to your authentication token, eventually it would expire. Your access token would expire. However, your refresh token does not expire in the same way. And you can use your refresh token to refresh and get a new API access token. The problem is when you do this, you need to have multiple things. You need to have your secret, you need to have your client ID, and you need to have your refresh token all accessible within your application. I strongly advise that you set up some sort of a system to keep this outside of your code base. But if you are doing this purely locally, it's fine to just put your refresh token, your secret, your client ID, all of these things can be just put in there if you are not releasing this code to anyone. But if you are, do not do that. Do whatever you can to avoid doing that. It doesn't matter if it's just in a JSON file that you read from when the application starts up or whatever you choose. Just don't keep that in your live code. It is a dangerous decision to make, and you should not do that lightly. However, if you do choose to do that, it is perfectly fine as long as you're not distributing your code to anyone. And the important thing to keep in mind is that you would use a Twitch API instance. So you would say public Twitch API to create your API, and then you would configure it. But how would you configure it? Well, first you'll create a new one, and then you will go into your settings. And if you look into your settings, you will see that there are multiple fields that need to be populated with information. So the secret, the client ID, and the access token all need to be assigned. So let's say we were to do that. So let's say we were to pull our secret and we're to pull all that stuff. So we would do public string secret equals, and then we'll go over to our information about our application here. We'll pull our secret. We'll slap that in here. We'll pull our client ID. We'll slap that in here. And again, do not do this in software you intend to release to somebody. This is just giving away the keys to your house. If you want to consider this in any sort of severity level, this is giving away the keys to your house, keys to your car. You're telling somebody where you live and how to find you. Do not give away this information in your code. Keep it stored in another document. But in the case that you do this, just make sure you're not releasing it to anybody. So then we would say our settings secret is our secret. API settings client ID equals client ID. API settings access token equals access token, or our bot OAuth in this case. And then finally, what we would need to do is use our refresh token. So our refresh token, of course, is over in here. We will grab this refresh token. We'll once again store this in a field. Now keep in mind, this needs to be stored somewhere that caches between sessions, because once we refresh our token, our original OAuth token is dead. It will no longer work, and neither will our refresh token. We will get a new one of both. Refresh token equals this. So then what you would do is you would call API auth refresh auth token async. Now here is an important aspect that you need to keep in mind for developing your bot. Asynchronous operations. I am not the knower of all things in this topic, but what I do know is that mixing synchronous and asynchronous code does not work very well. For test purposes, you may or may not find this gives you good results, but I'm going to show you a way that you could theoretically synchronously handle this. So what you would do is you would pass your refresh token, you would pass your client secret. In this case, it would just be our secret field here. And you would pass your client ID, which it says it's optional. It will try to pull it from your API settings. But in general, whenever there's the option to give your client ID or your auth token and it is optional, I advise that you just do so anyways, because most of the time I've run into issues when I don't. So in this case, we will give our client ID as well. So what this method will do, and I'm not going to run it because I will end up killing my current auth tokens and I might want to do more demos for you all today. But if we run this, we will receive a refresh response back. But it's important to note that this is asynchronous. So we can't just fire this off. If we just fire this off, it's not going to work as intended. So what we have to do is we have to say var refresh result equals, and then we need to go to the end of this and say get awaiter, which will get an awaiter for this. And then we need to say get result. And by doing this, we are forcing this asynchronous operation to go as quickly as possible. You can see right here, it says ends the wait for completion of the asynchronous task. This will give you mixed results. You should not do this. What you want to do instead is build a public async task refresh my token method that will then do this same exact thing. So what we would do is we would declare our API up here, and instead of firing this off here, we would want to fire it off in here, and we would not need to use get awaiter or get result. We can then simply just say await this. And for those of you who are experienced with C#, you know this is already a thing. You're already well aware of how to work with asynchronous operations. But for those of you who are not, it is very important to understand this as a concept because you will run into problems if you try to brute force asynchronous operations. You will end up having things fail when they don't need to. So once you're at this point, you'll receive a refresh response. If we go and look at our refresh response, and we have to add the appropriate namespace to see this, if we go and look at our refresh response, we can see that we get sent back an access token, a refresh token, the amount, I believe this is either in seconds or milliseconds of time until it expires, and our scopes list. So you would want to store this refresh response in some way, and you would also want to make sure that you update your API and your client. I'm not going to walk you through how to do that today. I'm going to leave that to you as a little bit of a homework assignment. If you care about this kind of thing, you're probably already on it anyways. So I'll leave you with that, but it's very important to understand that your token will expire. The token that you have created with me today in this little video, your token will expire, and you need to potentially come up with a system yourself to refresh this token. And if you can't figure it out, then you'll just have to catch me next time. And now with that, you are fully equipped as a developer to send messages, receive messages, process commands, refresh your auth tokens if you're able to figure out the API stuff, and in general, start exploring what it's like to work on a Twitch chatbot and have some fun with it. I very much hope that you do manage to have some fun with it. I hope that this brings you a couple steps closer to your goal of making a Twitch chatbot with TwitchLib. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're curious about me, you can find out more about me in the links down below. You can also visit my Twitch stream over at twitch.tv/Settlix, where I stream 5 days a week, Saturdays through Wednesdays, doing C# game dev and also bot dev and also all sorts of other stuff. So if you like what you saw here, consider swinging by my stream, consider slapping that subscribe button here on YouTube, and thank you very much for pointing your eyes and ears toward my videos. So with that, I wish you the best of luck. I hope you get the opportunity to do some cool stuff with what I've taught you today, and I very much hope that you're a step closer to your goals. So take good care of yourself, be well, and maybe I'll catch you again sometime. For now, I say to you all, goodbye. See you later. Bye-bye.